The lawyer's mahogany desk was so polished I could see my own reflection in it, distorted, fractured, like everything else in that room. Mr. Patterson slid the will across to me with the kind of careful neutrality only decades of practice can teach you. My brother Dylan sat across from me, legs crossed, checking his watch like this was just another Tuesday inconvenience. My parents' words, their final words, were right there in black and white. And my name? It appeared exactly twice. Once in the introduction, once to confirm I'd received nothing. The beach house in Malibu? Dylan. The investment portfolio worth $2.3 million? Dylan. Mom's art collection, the one I helped her curate for 15 years? Dylan. Even the 1967 Mustang Dad restored, the one I handed him wrenches for every Saturday of my teenage years? Dylan. My mother's sister, Aunt Diane, sat in the corner, tissues already clutched in her fist. She wouldn't look at me. My father's business partner, Gerald, kept clearing his throat like he was trying to dislodge the awkwardness. And Dylan? He finally glanced up from his phone and said, "Look, Harper, they knew you'd be fine. You've always been the strong one." Strong. That word again. The excuse they'd been using my entire life to justify why I got less, expected more, and somehow owed them gratitude for it. My name is Harper Calloway. I'm 28 years old, and if you think this story ends with me crying in a parking lot, think again. Because what happens when the family that built you into their safety net suddenly cuts the strings? What happens when strength becomes the reason you're punished instead of praised? I didn't cry, didn't argue. I simply stood, smoothed my skirt, and walked out of that office with my head high and my phone already buzzing with the automatic payment reminders I had set up years ago. Reminders for things they'd forgotten I was even paying for. And one by one, I canceled every single one.
Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you.
The drive home from the lawyer's office should have been emotional. Maybe it should have been cinematic. Rain on the windshield, hands gripping the steering wheel, some indie song playing about betrayal and broken families. But it wasn't. It was sunny. Traffic was late. And I felt nothing. Just a strange, hollow clarity. I pulled into the parking garage of my apartment building, the same one I'd lived in for 4 years. Modest, clean, paid for entirely by me. I sat in the car for a moment, engine ticking as it cooled, and pulled up my banking app. There they were, the payments. The ones I'd set up so long ago, I barely remembered doing it. $950 a month to Dylan's car loan. The luxury sedan he just had to have for his image when he started his consulting firm that never quite took off. $1,200 toward the property taxes on the Malibu house, the one I'd never been invited to stay at even though I helped make the down payment when Dad's business hit a rough patch. $600 for Mom's private yoga instructor and wellness coach, because apparently grief required a guru. $2,000 a month into a joint family emergency fund that somehow only ever had emergencies when Dylan needed a bailout. I stared at those numbers. Nearly $5,000 a month for years. While I drove a 9-year-old Honda, skipped vacations, and told myself it was temporary, that family helps family, that one day they'd see. But they had seen. They'd seen exactly how much they could take. And in that lawyer's office, they made it clear. I was the giver, Dylan was the keeper. I didn't hesitate. I canceled every single recurring payment. Each one required a confirmation. Are you sure you want to stop this payment? Yes, 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 yes. When I was done, I sat back and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. My phone was quiet. The world hadn't ended, and for the first time in years, my money was just mine. I went upstairs and made tea. Chamomile, the kind Mom always said was too boring. I sat by the window overlooking the city and waited. I knew it would come. The realization, the panic, they just didn't know it yet. 3 days passed. I went to work, taught my classes at the community college, graded papers, lived my life. My phone stayed silent. No calls from Dylan, no texts from Aunt Diane, nothing. On the 4th day, I got a notification, a missed call from a number I didn't recognize. No voicemail, then another, same number, still no message. By day 6, Dylan finally texted. "Hey, weird question. Did something happen with your bank? The auto pay for my car bounced." I read it twice. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "We should talk about the will." Just a logistical question about his car payment. I typed back, "Not my car." 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then reappeared. "What do you mean?" "I mean, it's not my car, so it's not my payment." "Dylan, come on, don't be petty. This isn't about the will." I almost laughed. Petty. I'd been paying for his life for 5 years, and now I was petty. I write, "It's not about the will. It's about bills, and whose name's on them." I put my phone face down on the counter and went back to grading essays. An hour later, it rang. Dylan. I didn't answer. He called again, and again. By the 10th call, I turned my phone off entirely. That night, I made myself dinner. A real one. Salmon, roasted vegetables, a glass of wine I didn't feel guilty about buying. I ate slowly, deliberately, savoring every bite. And when I was done, I washed the single plate, the single fork, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace.
The next morning, my phone exploded. 17 missed calls, 9 voicemails, a dozen texts. Not just from Dylan, but from Aunt Diane, from Gerald, even from my cousin Riley, who I hadn't heard from since she borrowed $800 for an emergency 3 years ago and never paid back. I listened to one voicemail, just one. Dylan's voice was tight, frustrated. "Harper, I don't know what kind of point you're trying to make, but this is ridiculous. The property tax payment didn't go through either. You're going to cost Mom and Dad's estate thousands in penalties. Just call me back, please." Mom and Dad's estate. The one I got nothing from. The one that was entirely Dylan's now. And somehow I was still supposed to be responsible for it? I deleted the voicemail. Deleted all of them, actually. Then I blocked Dylan's number. Blocked Aunt Diane. Blocked Riley. One by one, I severed the threads they'd been pulling for years. And then I did something I hadn't done in a decade. I called my college best friend, Vanessa Chen. We'd lost touch after graduation. Life got busy. Or maybe I got busy being everyone's ATM and forgot I had a life of my own. She picked up on the second ring. "Harper Calloway, is this real or did someone steal your phone?" I laughed, actually laughed. "It's real, and I know it's been forever, but are you free for coffee?" "For you, always." We met that afternoon at a cafe in Silver Lake. Vanessa looked exactly the same. Sharp black bob, red lipstick, the kind of confidence I used to have before my family drained it out of me. She didn't ask about the will, didn't pry, just listened as I told her everything. And when I was done, she leaned back, stirred her iced latte, and said, "So, you finally stopped being their emotional support building." "Their what?" "You heard me. You want their daughter, Harper. You were infrastructure, the foundation they built their lives on. And the second you stopped holding them up, they collapsed." I stared at her. She was right. I'd been so focused on being strong, on being capable, on proving I was worth keeping around that I'd forgotten I didn't need to prove anything. Vanessa reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You did the right thing. And if they can't see that, screw 'em." For the first time since that lawyer's office, I smiled, really smiled. And somewhere across town, in the house I'd helped pay for, I imagined Dylan staring at his phone, waiting for me to fix everything. But I wasn't coming. Not this time. Not ever again.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story.
2 weeks after blocking Dylan's number, I started receiving emails. Not from him directly, but from the Malibu Property Management Company. Subject lines like urgent, account past due, and final notice before legal action. I opened one out of curiosity. Apparently, the Homeowners Association fees were 3 months behind. Late penalties were stacking up. They were threatening to place a lien on the property. I forwarded the email to Dylan's address with a single line. Your inheritance, your responsibility. Then I archived it and went about my day. Teaching Introduction to American Literature to a classroom full of community college students who actually wanted to be there was surprisingly grounding. These were people working 2 jobs, raising kids, chasing dreams that nobody handed them. They didn't have trust funds or beach houses. They had grit. After class, a student named Maria approached my desk. She was in her 40s, always sat in the front row, took meticulous notes. Professor Calloway, I just wanted to say thank you for believing in us. I blinked, caught off guard. Of course. You're all doing great work. She shook her head. No, I mean really believing. My family thinks I'm wasting time going back to school, but you make me feel like it matters. Something cracked open in my chest. Here was someone whose family doubted her, and she kept going anyway. She didn't wait for their approval. She just built her own path. It does matter, Maria. And you matter. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. She smiled, gathered her books, and left. I sat there for a moment thinking about how much energy I'd spent trying to matter to people who had already decided I didn't. That night I went through my apartment and started packing up old photographs. There was one from Dylan's college graduation, him in his cap and gown, our parents beaming beside him. I was in the background holding the camera bag. Another from Christmas 5 years ago, Dylan opening an expensive watch I'd helped Mom pick out. Me off to the side, wearing a sweater I'd owned for 6 years. I didn't tear them up or burn them in some dramatic gesture. I just put them in a box, taped it shut, and slid it into the back of my closet. Out of sight, out of mind. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Harper. It was Aunt Diane. Her voice was strained, desperate. Please, we need to talk. We really don't. Your brother is struggling. The bills are piling up, and he doesn't understand why you're doing this. I laughed, short and sharp. He doesn't understand? Aunt Diane, I've been paying his bills for 5 years. Now he gets to learn what the rest of us already know. Actions have consequences. But he's family. So am I. Or at least I thought I was. Turns out I was just the backup plan, the safety net, the one who didn't deserve a single thing in that will, but somehow still deserves to keep everyone afloat. Silence stretched between us. Your parents loved you, she finally whispered. Maybe. But love isn't supposed to come with terms and conditions, and it's definitely not supposed to have a price tag. I hung up before she could respond. The thing about setting boundaries is that people treat them like acts of war, like you're the villain for refusing to be used anymore. But I was learning something important. Their discomfort with my boundaries was not my emergency. A week later, Dylan found a way around the blocked number. He showed up at my apartment. I was making breakfast when the buzzer rang. The doorman's voice crackled through the speaker. Miss Calloway, there's a Dylan Calloway here to see you. My stomach tightened. Tell him I'm not available. There was a pause, muffled conversation, then, he says it's an urgent, family emergency. Of course it was. Everything was an emergency when they needed something. I pressed the button. Tell him there's no emergency I can help with, and if he doesn't leave, call security. I released the button and stood there, heart pounding, half expecting him to talk his way up anyway. But 5 minutes passed, then 10. He didn't come up. I looked out the window and saw him on the sidewalk below, phone pressed to his ear, pacing. Even from 8 floors up, I could see the frustration in his gestures. He was used to getting what he wanted, used to me giving in.
Not anymore. That afternoon, I did something I'd been putting off for months. I called a real estate agent about the small condo I'd been eyeing in Pasadena. 1 bedroom, lots of light, a little balcony overlooking a garden. Nothing extravagant, just mine. The agent, a woman named Judith with a practical demeanor I appreciated, walked me through the numbers. With my savings, the ones I'd finally stopped bleeding into my family's endless needs, I could afford it. Comfortably. "When would you like to put in an offer?" she asked. I looked at the photos again. The sunlight streaming through the windows, the kitchen where I could cook for one without feeling guilty, the space where nobody could take anything from me because it was never theirs to begin with. "Today," I said. "Let's do it today." Judith smiled. "I like your certainty." Walking out of that meeting, I felt lighter than I had in years. I wasn't running from my family. I was running toward myself. There's a difference. That evening, Vanessa called. "Drinks tonight? I have news." We met at a wine bar in Las Vegas. She was practically glowing. "I got the promotion," she announced, raising her glass. "Senior Creative Director." "Vanessa, that's incredible." We clinked glasses, and I meant it. Her success felt like proof that good things happen to people who prioritized themselves. "Your turn," she said. "What's new in the Callaway Liberation saga?" I told her about the condo offer, about Dylan showing up, about finally feeling like I was building something that couldn't be taken away. She studied me for a moment. "You know what I noticed? You're smiling more. Like actual smiling, not that polite thing you used to do." I hadn't realized, but she was right. The weight I'd been carrying, the constant anxiety about whether I was doing enough, being enough, it was lifting. Not all at once, but enough to breathe. "They're going to keep trying," Vanessa said gently. "People like that don't give up easy." I know, but I'm not the same person I was in that lawyer's office. I'm not even the same person I was 2 weeks ago. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Good, because that person deserved better. And this person?" She gestured at me. "This person is just getting started." We stayed until the bar closed, talking about everything except my family. Books, travel, her disastrous dating app experiences, my plans for the new condo, normal things. The kind of conversations I'd forgotten I could have when I wasn't constantly managing other people's crises. When I got home that night, there was an envelope taped to my door. No name, no return address. Inside was a single piece of paper with Dylan's handwriting. "We need to talk about Mom and Dad's legacy. This isn't just about money, it's about honoring their memory. Call me." I read it once, then tore it in half, then in half again, and again, until it was just confetti in my hands. Their legacy wasn't my responsibility to preserve, especially when that legacy had written me out of the story entirely. I threw the pieces away and locked my door behind me. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. Some distances are actually peace. The condo offer was accepted on a Thursday. I signed the papers in Judith's office with a pen that felt heavier than it should have, like I was signing more than a mortgage. I was signing a declaration of independence. "Congratulations, Harper," Judith said, shaking my hand. "You're officially a homeowner." A homeowner, not a cosigner, not a financial backup, just me, owning something that was entirely mine. I celebrated alone that night, ordered Thai food, opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving for no particular occasion, and watched the sunset from my current apartment balcony. In 6 weeks, I'd be watching it from my own place. But the universe has a funny way of testing you right when you start to feel steady. The next morning, I woke up to 43 emails, all from the same sender, a law firm I didn't recognize, Patterson and Associates. The subject line made my blood run cold. Regarding estate of Robert and Catherine Callaway, contested distribution. I opened it with shaking hands. The email was formal, cold, and devastatingly clear. Dylan had hired an attorney to challenge our parents' will, not to get me included, to argue that I had unduly influenced our parents before their deaths and that my current financial abandonment of family responsibilities proved I was acting in bad faith. They were claiming that the emergency fund I'd closed, the one with $18,000 in it, was jointly owned family property. They wanted it returned, with interest. I read it 3 times, each time feeling a different emotion. First shock, then rage, finally something close to bitter amusement. They were suing me for taking back my own money. I forwarded the email to Vanessa with one line. "You're not going to believe this." She called immediately. "They did not." "Oh, they absolutely did." "Harper, this is insane. That money was yours. You deposited it. Your name was on the account." "Dylan's name was on it too, as a beneficiary. He's saying it was always meant to be family money." Vanessa was quiet for a moment. "What are you going to do?" I stared at the email, at the legal head hair, at the veiled threats buried in professional language, and something inside me hardened into steel. I'm going to fight back, but not the way they expect. I called a lawyer that afternoon. Not someone expensive and flashy, but someone Judas had recommended. A woman named Laura Brennan, who specialized in family law and estate disputes. Laura's office was small but organized, walls lined with legal books and framed degrees. She was in her 50s, gray hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun, eyes sharp and assessing. I handed her the email and watched as she read it, her expression never changing. "Well," she finally said, setting it down, "your brother's attorney is certainly creative. And by creative, I mean desperate." Can they win? Win? No. Make your life difficult for the next 6 months? Absolutely. She leaned back in her chair. "Here's what's really happening. Your brother inherited everything, but he can't afford to maintain it. He needs you to keep funding his lifestyle, and when you stopped, reality hit him like a freight train." "So this lawsuit is just leverage," Laura finished. "He wants you scared enough to start paying again, or angry enough to settle and give him cash just to make it go away." I felt my jaw tighten. I'm not giving him anything. Laura smiled. It wasn't warm. It was the smile of someone who'd seen this play before and knew how it ended. "Good, because we're going to bury him in discovery. Every payment you ever made, every text message where they asked for money, every receipt. We're going to document exactly how much you gave this family and how little you got in return." "Won't that be, I don't know, airing dirty laundry?" "Harper, they already threw the laundry in the street. We're just going to fold it very neatly and show it to a judge." I hired her on the spot. That weekend, I started going through my records. Bank statements going back 7 years. Text messages I'd never deleted because I never thought I'd need them. Emails asking for just a small favor that always came with a dollar amount. The total, when I finally calculated it, made me nauseous. $347,000. Over 7 years, I had given my family nearly $350,000. Car payments, property taxes, emergency loans that were never repaid, bailouts, cover-ups, and 1,000 small transfers I'd barely kept track of.
And in return, I got a will that mentioned me twice and left me nothing. I sat on my living room floor, surrounded by papers, and felt something crack. Not break, crack, like ice on a frozen lake. The kind that sounds different before it gives way. Vanessa found me there 2 hours later. I had given her a spare key months ago, back when we reconnected. "Harper?" She knelt beside me, taking in the paper fortress around me. "What is all this?" Evidence, I said quietly. Evidence that I was never a daughter. I was a transaction. She picked up one of the bank statements, scanned it, and her eyes widened. Jesus, Harper, this is... I know. She set it down carefully, like it might shatter. You're going to win this. You know that, right? I looked at her, and for the first time since that lawyer's office, I felt tears prick my eyes. Not sad tears, angry ones. I don't just want to win, Vanessa. I want them to understand what they did. I want Dylan to see, in black and white, exactly how much he took from me, how much they all took. Then let's make sure he does. We worked through the night, organizing everything into categories. Dylan's expenses, property costs, emergency funds, Mom's medical bills that insurance covered but they claimed I still needed to chip in for, Dad's business investments that somehow always needed just a little more capital. By sunrise, we had a file 3 inches thick. Laura called it beautiful when I brought it to her office Monday morning. "This is everything I need," she said, flipping through the organized tabs. Harper, with documentation this thorough, we're not just defending against his lawsuit. We could counterclaim. For what? Financial elder abuse? Undue influence? Unjust enrichment? Your brother convinced your parents to leave him everything while you were actively supporting the entire family. A good attorney could argue he manipulated them. I considered it. The idea of Dylan sitting in a deposition, having to explain why he deserved everything while contributing nothing, was tempting. But something stopped me. "No," I said. "No counterclaim. I just want this dismissed. I want him to know he can't bully me into coming back." Laura studied me. "You're sure? We could get you compensated for at least some of what you gave them." "I'm sure. The money's gone. I've made peace with that. What I need is for this to be over, permanently." She nodded slowly. "Then we'll file a motion to dismiss, and we'll attach every single page of this file. Put it all on the record. How long will it take? 3 months? Maybe 4. But Harper," she looked at me seriously, "once we file this response, there's no going back. Your family will see exactly how much you documented. It's going to get ugly." I thought about Dylan's face in that lawyer's office, about Aunt Diane's phone call, about the note taped to my door. It's already ugly. At least this way, it's honest. I walked out of Laura's office feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Not peace, not yet, but power. The power that comes from knowing you have the truth on your side and you're finally ready to use it.
Laura filed our response on a Wednesday afternoon. By Thursday morning, my phone started ringing from numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored them all. What I didn't ignore was the email from Gerald, Dad's old business partner. The subject line read, "You deserve to know the truth." I almost deleted it. Almost. But something about the wording made me pause. Gerald had been quiet through everything. He'd sat in that lawyer's office looking uncomfortable, but hadn't said a word. Why reach out now? I opened it. "Harper, I've debated writing this for weeks. What I'm about to tell you will hurt, but you need to know. Your father came to me 6 months before he died. He wanted to change the will. He wanted to split everything equally between you and Dylan. I was there when he told the lawyer to draft it. He said, and I quote, 'Harper's earned this. She's been holding us together for years.' Your mother agreed. I heard her say it. But Dylan found out. I don't know how. And over the next few months, he worked on them. Constantly. Telling them you were financially stable, that you didn't need help, that giving you half would be insulting to your independence. He painted it like he was protecting your pride. Your parents were tired, Harper, sick, and Dylan was persistent. Eventually, they changed their minds, or he changed it for them. I'm not saying this to excuse anything, but you should know your father's first instinct was to do right by you. Dylan made sure that didn't happen. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. Gerald." I read it 5 times. Each time, the words rearranged themselves into a new kind of pain. My parents had wanted to include me. They tried. And Dylan had talked them out of it. I sat there, laptop open, staring at Gerald's email until the screen went dark. Then I picked up my phone and called Vanessa. He manipulated them, I said when she answered. No hello, no context needed. Who? Dylan? Gerald just sent me an email. Dad wanted to split the inheritance equally. Dylan convinced them not to. Silence. Then, Harper, that's proof, I finished. That's actual proof of undue influence. Laura said we could counterclaim for that. Are you going to? I stood up, started pacing. My small apartment suddenly felt even smaller. I don't know. Part of me wants to destroy him, but another part just wants to be free of all of this. Those aren't mutually exclusive, Vanessa said quietly. You can protect yourself and still walk away on your terms. She was right, as always. I forwarded Gerald's email to Laura with a simple message. Does this change anything? Her response came within 10 minutes. It changes everything. Call me. We met that afternoon. Laura had printed out Gerald's email and highlighted key phrases. This is textbook undue influence, she said, tapping the paper. Gerald had access, opportunity, and clear motive. He actively interfered with your parents' estate planning while they were vulnerable. But can we prove it? It's just Gerald's word. Laura smiled that sharp smile again. Gerald was a witness, and if he's willing to testify, which this email suggests he is, then yes, we can prove it. She leaned forward. Harper, with this, we could invalidate the will entirely, force the estate into intestate succession, which would give you half of everything. Half of everything. The house, the stocks, the Mustang, the art collection. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt exhausting. How long would that take? Years, probably. And it would get vicious. Dylan would fight it with everything he has. Your entire family would have to choose sides. It would consume your life. I thought about the condo I just bought, about my students at the community college, and about the peace I'd started to build in the spaces where my family used to be. What if we just use it as leverage? I asked. Show Dylan we have this. Make him drop the lawsuit.
Laura considered it. We could file a countermotion, attach Gerald's statement, make it clear we're prepared to go nuclear if he doesn't back down. It might be enough to scare him off. Let's do that. She nodded approvingly. I'll draft it today. But Harper, you need to be prepared. When Dylan sees this, he's going to panic. Panicked people don't make rational decisions. I know, but I'm done being afraid of his reactions. That evening, I went for a walk. The LA sunset was painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and the spring air smelled like jasmine. I ended up at a small park near my apartment, sat on a bench, and just breathed. A woman jogging past smiled at me. A kid on a skateboard nearly wiped out, then laughed at himself. Normal people living normal lives, unburdened by family lawsuits and inheritance drama. I wanted that. Not the money, not the vindication, just the normalcy of being someone whose family didn't require constant damage control. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Gerald. I meant what I said in that email. If you need me to testify, I will. Your father would have wanted someone to stand up for you. I'm sorry it took me this long. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed back. Thank you. That means more than you know. His response was immediate. Your dad was proud of you, Harper. He talked about your teaching all the time, said you were changing lives. Dylan never could handle that you were the successful one without trying. Something inside me cracked open a little more. Not in a breaking way, in a healing way. My dad had been proud of me. He'd wanted to do right by me, and even though he'd failed, even though he'd let Dylan manipulate him in the end, there had been a moment when he'd tried. That had to count for something. I walked home slowly, taking the long way. When I got back to my apartment, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not legal documents or angry emails, just thoughts, reflections. I wrote about the girl I'd been at 16, already learning that love in my family came with conditions. I wrote about the woman I'd become, the one who confused self-sacrifice with self-worth. And I wrote about the person I was becoming now,
Someone who understood that walking away wasn't failure, it was survival. The words poured out for hours, pages and pages of things I'd never said out loud. When I finally stopped, it was past midnight. My hands were cramping and my eyes were tired, but I felt lighter, like I'd put down something heavy I'd been carrying for too long. I saved the document, titled it The Cost of Being Capable, and closed my laptop. Tomorrow, Laura would file the countermotion. Dylan would see Gerald's statement. The war would escalate. But tonight, I had clarity. I wasn't fighting for money or property or even justice in the traditional sense. I was fighting for the right to exist outside of their narrative, the right to be more than the capable one, the strong one, the one who didn't need anything because she was too busy providing everything. I was fighting for me. And for the first time in my entire life, that felt like enough. I climbed into bed, set my alarm, and slept dreamlessly. The kind of sleep you can only get when you know you're finally on the right path, even if that path leads through fire. Because sometimes the only way out is through. And I was done looking for shortcuts.
Laura filed the countermotion on Friday at 4:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I was staring at my phone, waiting for her confirmation text. Filed. Attached Gerald's statement and a motion to compel financial records from Dylan. Let's see how he likes discovery. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt strangely calm, like standing in the eye of a hurricane, knowing the winds were coming but having nothing left to do but wait. The winds came faster than expected. Saturday morning, I was at the farmer's market picking out tomatoes when I saw him, Dylan, standing by the organic honey stand, holding his phone like it might explode. His face was red, jaw clenched. He was reading something on the screen, and even from 20 feet away, I could see his hand shaking. He looked up. Our eyes met. For a second, neither of us moved. The market buzzed around us. Families, couples, someone's dog barking at a street performer. Normal Saturday morning chaos. And there we were, frozen in the middle of it. Dylan started walking toward me. I could have left, should have probably, but something kept me rooted to the spot. Maybe I was tired of running, or maybe I just wanted to see his face when he tried to justify the unjustifiable. "You're unbelievable," he said. Not loud, almost a whisper, but the venom in it was clear. "Good morning to you too, Dylan." "Don't!" He held up his phone. "Gerald, really? You got Dad's business partner to lie for you?" I picked up a tomato, examined it like we were having a casual conversation. Gerald didn't lie. He told the truth. There's a difference. "This is insane. You're trying to steal my inheritance." "Your inheritance?" I set the tomato down carefully. "The one you manipulated Mom and Dad into giving you? That inheritance?" His face flushed darker. "I didn't manipulate anyone. I had conversations with them. I helped them see clearly. You convinced dying parents that their daughter who'd given them everything didn't deserve anything. You want to call that clarity? I call it cruelty." A woman browsing lettuce nearby glanced at us nervously. Dylan lowered his voice. "You don't need the money, Harper. You've always been fine on your own. I'm trying to build something." "With my money," I interrupted. "Let's be honest about what you're building, Dylan. You're building a life on a foundation I paid for. The car I financed. The house I kept from foreclosure. The business ventures I bailed out. Tell me, what exactly have you built on your own?" He stepped closer. "You gave that money freely. No one forced you." "You're right. No one forced me. I gave it because I thought that's what family did. I thought if I just gave enough, supported enough, sacrificed enough, eventually I'd matter." But I was wrong, because in that lawyer's office, I learned the truth. I was never family. I was a resource. His expression shifted. Something like guilt flickered across his face before hardening back into anger.
So what's your end game here? You want to drag us all through court, destroy what's left of this family? I picked up my bag of tomatoes, met his eyes directly. I don't want to destroy anything, Dylan. I just want you to leave me alone. Drop the lawsuit, stop pretending I owe you something, and maybe, just maybe, learn to stand on your own 2 feet. And if I don't, then Gerald testifies, all those financial records get subpoenaed, every text message where you asked me for money, every email where Mom and Dad leaned on me while you did nothing, all of it becomes public record. Is that really what you want? He stared at me, jaw working like he was chewing on words he couldn't quite spit out. You're changed, he said. You're not the sister I grew up with. I'm not. That sister died in a lawyer's office when she realized her family saw her as an ATM with a heartbeat. This version, I gestured at myself, this version has boundaries and self-respect. You should try it sometime. I walked away before he could respond. My hands were shaking, adrenaline coursing through me, but I didn't look back. Behind me, I heard him call out, "This isn't over!" I kept walking, because for me, it already was. That afternoon, Vanessa came over with wine and takeout. I told her about the farmer's market confrontation while we ate pad thai straight from the containers. How do you feel?
Honestly? Later. Like I've been holding my breath for 28 years and finally exhaled. She smiled. Good, because you deserve to breathe. My phone buzzed. A text from Laura. Dylan's attorney just called. They want to meet. Tuesday at 2. Interested? I showed Vanessa the message. Should I? What does your gut say? I thought about it. About Dylan's face at the market, about the shake in his hands, about how Gerald's statement had clearly rattled him. My gut says he's scared. And scared people either fight or fold. So, which do you think he'll do? Only one way to find out. I texted Laura back. I'll be there. Tuesday arrived wrapped in typical LA Marine lair, the sky gray and heavy. Laura's office felt smaller with 5 people crammed into it. Me and Laura on one side of the conference table, Dylan and his attorney, a sharp-dressed man named Kenneth Bradshaw, on the other. Gerald sat at the end, his presence a quiet anchor. Kenneth started with pleasantries, weather, traffic, the usual attorney small talk. Then he got to business. My client is willing to drop the lawsuit, he said, sliding a document across the table, in exchange for certain concessions. Laura picked it up, scanned it, and her eyebrow raised. Concessions? That's one word for it. What kind of concessions? I asked. Kenneth folded his hands. Mr. Calloway is willing to return $10,000 from the disputed Family Emergency Fund. In exchange, Miss Calloway agrees to sign a non-disclosure agreement regarding all family financial matters and drops any potential counterclaims. I almost laughed. 10,000? I put 18,000 into that account, and that's not counting the 347,000 I gave this family over 7 years. Dylan flinched. Apparently, hearing the number out loud hit differently than seeing it on paper. The NDA is non-negotiable, Kenneth continued. My client's reputation is built on money he didn't earn. I finished. No, absolutely not. Laura leaned forward. Here's our counteroffer. Dylan drops the lawsuit entirely. He pays Harper's legal fees, which are currently at $12,000 and climbing, and he signs a document acknowledging that all previous payments from Harper were gifts, not loans, and he has no claim to any future financial support. Kenneth started to speak, but Dylan cut him off. What about the NDA? I looked at him directly. I'm not interested in your reputation, Dylan. I'm interested in my freedom. You want this over? Then walk away. No lawsuits, no demands, no showing up at my apartment or farmers markets. Just walk away. And you won't sue me for the inheritance? I was never going to sue you for the inheritance.
I just wanted you to stop suing me. He looked at Kenneth, who nodded slightly, then back at me. Fine, Dylan said quietly. We drop everything. Clean slate. Not clean, I corrected. Blank. As in, we have no relationship, no contact, no expectations. You live your life with your inheritance, and I live mine. That's the deal. He swallowed hard. For a moment, he looked like he might argue. Then he just nodded. Kenneth pulled out a fresh document, and Laura reviewed it carefully. Both sides signed. It was over in less than 20 minutes. As we stooped to leave, Dylan caught my arm. Harper? Don't, I said gently. We're done. That's all this needed to be. I walked out of that office with Laura and Gerald, leaving Dylan and his attorney behind. On the sidewalk, Gerald pulled me into an unexpected hug. Your father would be proud, he said. I didn't cry, but it was close. Thank you, I whispered, for telling the truth. He pulled back, smiled sadly. It was long overdue. Laura shook my hand. You did good in there. Most people would have pushed for more. I got what I needed. Everything else is just noise. I walked to my car, climbed in, and sat there for a moment. It was really over. No more lawsuits, no more Dylan, no more carrying the weight of a family that never appreciated it. I started the engine and drove towards Pasadena. Towards the condo that was all mine. Towards a life that finally belonged to me.
Moving day arrived on a Saturday in late spring, the kind of morning where the sun felt like a promise instead of a threat. Vanessa showed up at 7 with coffee and a rented truck. Ready to start your new life? I looked around my old apartment, 4 years of my life packed into boxes. Some memories I was taking with me, others I was leaving behind. More than ready. The condo in Pasadena was everything the photos promised. Hardwood floors that creaked in a charming way, windows that let in streams of golden light, a kitchen with counter space I'd actually use, a bedroom that faced east so I'd wake up with the sunrise. Most importantly, it was quiet. No family drama seeping through the walls, no guilt hanging in the air like humidity. We spent the day unpacking. Vanessa had a system, she always did, and by evening, the place actually looked like a home. My books on the shelves, my grandmother's quilt on the bed, the one thing from my childhood that had actually been given to me, not just promised and taken away. Wine on the balcony? Vanessa suggested as we surveyed our work. We sat outside as the sky turned purple, glasses in hand, watching the neighborhood wind down for the evening. A couple walked their dog, kids rode bikes in lazy circles. Normal, beautiful, mundane life. Can I ask you something? Vanessa said after a while. Always. Do you regret it? Any of it? I considered the question. Did I regret the money I'd given? The years I had spent propping up people who never intended to catch me if I fell? No, I said finally. I regret that I had to learn the hard way, but I don't regret who I became because of it. That version of me who walked out of the lawyer's office and decided enough was enough, I like her. She's stronger than the one who walked in. Vanessa clinked her glass against mine. To Harper 2.0, may she never settle for less than she deserves. I'll drink to that. The following Monday, I returned to the community college for the new semester. My classroom felt different somehow. Or maybe I felt different in it. Maria was there again, front row, same eager expression. But this time, she wasn't alone. She'd brought her teenage daughter. Professor Calloway, this is Sophia. I told her about your class, about how you made me believe I could do this. She wants to take American literature next semester.
Sophia looked nervous, clutching a notebook to her chest. My mom says you actually care about your students, that you see them. Something tightened in my chest. I try to, because I know what it's like to feel invisible. After class, I found an envelope on my desk. No name, just a small card inside with neat handwriting. Thank you for showing us that it's never too late to choose yourself. Your Spring 2025 class. I sat at my desk for a long time holding that card. These students had no idea what I had been through, but somehow they'd seen the shift in me. The woman who'd stopped apologizing for taking up space. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my grandmother's sister, Aunt Florence. She was my mom's aunt, technically, but she'd always been kind to me in a way the rest of the family wasn't. Harper, is that really you? Her voice was warm, surprised. We hadn't spoken since the funeral. Hi, Aunt Florence. I hope I'm not calling too late. Never too late for you, sweetheart. How are you holding up? And just like that, I told her everything. The will, the lawsuit, the settlement, the condo. She listened without interrupting, occasionally making small sounds of acknowledgement. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. I'm going to tell you something your mother would hate me for, but you deserve to know. Your mother struggled with jealousy her whole life. She was the younger sister, always comparing herself to me, to other women. When you came along so smart and independent, I think it scared her. Scared her? That you'd outgrow her, that you wouldn't need her. So she kept you close by making you feel responsible for everyone. It was her way of ensuring you'd always come back. Florence sighed. It wasn't right, and I should have said something years ago, but family loyalty and all that nonsense. I pressed my palm against my eyes, processing. She made me need to be needed. Exactly. And when you stopped playing that role, she didn't know what to do with you. She wrote me out of the will. She did, and that was cruel. But Harper, I want you to know something. Your grandmother, my sister, she would have been so proud of you. She used to tell me all the time that you had a fire in you, a strength that couldn't be borrowed or given. It was yours. Tears slipped down my cheeks. I wish I'd known her better.
She knew you, sweetheart. That's what mattered. We talked for another hour about recipes and memories and the family Florence had chosen to distance herself from years ago for her own sanity. She gave me her perspective, the outside view of a family that had always felt broken from the inside. When we hung up, I felt something settle. Not closure exactly, but context. Understanding that the dysfunction wasn't mine to fix because it had never been mine to begin with. The next few weeks passed in a blur of routine. Teaching, grading, settling into the condo. I bought plants for the balcony, hung artwork that I actually liked instead of pieces I'd inherited or felt obligated to display. Made the space mine, in every small detail. One Thursday afternoon, I was at a bookstore in Old Town when I saw Aunt Diane. She was in the poetry section, looking older than I remembered. Tired. We made eye contact. For a second, I thought about turning away, but I didn't. Harper, she said softly, walking over. How are you? I'm good, Aunt Diane. Really good. She glanced at the books in my hands, teaching materials, a novel I'd been meaning to read. I heard about the settlement, about you and Dylan.
News travels fast. It does in this family. She paused. I wanted to apologize for the phone call, for not standing up for you. I knew what they were doing wasn't right, but You stayed quiet. I finished gently. I understand. Family pressure is real. It's not an excuse. No, it's not, but it's an explanation. And I appreciate you saying it. She looked like she might cry. You were always the strong one, even as a little girl. I think that's why they leaned on you so hard. They knew you could handle it. I could handle it, but I shouldn't have had to. Not alone. Not constantly. Diane nodded, wiping her eyes. For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. Building your own life. Some of us never learned how. We stood there, in the poetry section, two women from the same family on completely different paths. Take care of yourself, Aunt Diane. You too, Harper. You too. I walked out of the bookstore with my purchases and headed home. Not to my old apartment, not to my parents' house. Home. To the place I'd built with my own hands, my own money, my own choices. That evening, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine and my laptop. I opened the document I'd started weeks ago. The cost of being capable. I'd been adding to it little by little. Thoughts, reflections, lessons learned. What started as personal therapy had grown into something else. A narrative. Maybe even a story worth sharing. I read through what I'd written, then added a new section. Reconstruction isn't about rebuilding what was broken. It's about building something entirely new, something that doesn't require anyone's permission or approval, something that's yours. I saved the document, closed the laptop, and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Dylan was living his inherited life. Aunt Diane was navigating family loyalty. My mother was gone, never having to face what she had created. But here, on this balcony, in this home, with this life, I was free. And freedom, I was learning, wasn't about what you left behind. It was about what you built in the space that opened up when you finally let go.
6 months after the settlement, I published the essay. Not in some major publication or a viral blog post, just a small literary magazine that Vanessa had introduced me to. The kind read by people who appreciated honest storytelling over clickbait drama. I titled it The Invisible Inheritance. What happens when family makes you the foundation? It wasn't about revenge or exposing anyone. I changed names, altered details, but the heart of it was true. What it costs to be the capable one, the strong one, the one everyone leans on but no one thinks to support. The editor, a woman named Christine, called me the day it went live online. Harper, we've never had a response like this. The comment section is flooding with people sharing their own stories. You've touched something real. I logged in and started reading. Hundreds of comments from daughters, sons, siblings who'd been in similar positions, who'd given everything and received nothing, who thought they were alone. This is my story too. Thank you for putting words to it. I've been the family ATM for 15 years. Reading this gave me permission to stop. Shared this with my therapist. We spent the whole session unpacking it. Life-changing. I sat there, tears streaming down my face, reading message after message from strangers who understood, who'd lived it, who needed to know they weren't crazy for wanting more than being useful. Vanessa came over that evening with champagne. To Harper Calloway, writer, teacher, boundary-setting badass. I just told the truth. That's exactly why it matters. Most people are too scared to be that honest.
She refilled our glasses. So what's next? Book deal, speaking tour, Oprah's book club? I laughed. How about I just keep teaching and living my life? Boring but respectable. She studied me. You really are happy, aren't you? I thought about it. About the quiet mornings in my condo, about my students' faces when literature finally clicks for them, about the weekends with no obligations except the ones I chose. I really am. 3 weeks later, something unexpected arrived in the mail. A letter. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. Dylan. I almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won. Harper, I don't expect you to respond to this. I probably don't deserve a response, but I needed to write it anyway. I read your essay. Someone sent it to me, I won't say who, and I've been sitting with it for days, trying to figure out what to say. You were right about everything. I did manipulate Mom and Dad. I convinced myself I was protecting you from the burden of inheritance, but really I was protecting my own interests. I told myself you were fine without help because it was easier than admitting I needed everything you gave. The truth is, I've always been jealous of you. You made things look effortless. Your career, your independence, your strength. I got the inheritance, but you got the respect from everyone except the people who mattered most. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I'm getting help. Real help. Therapy, financial counseling, learning to stand on my own, like you said I should. The house is on the market. The Mustang, too. Turns out I can't afford any of it without you propping me up. Which, I guess, was your point all along. I hope you're happy, Harper. I mean that. You deserve happiness more than anyone I know. S. Dylan. I read it twice, then a third time. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was awareness, acknowledgement. And maybe that was enough. I didn't write back. Didn't need to. That chapter was closed, and no response could make it any more complete than it already was. Instead, I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer, and went on with my day.
That weekend, I hosted my first dinner party in the new condo. Nothing fancy. Vanessa, Gerald, Aunt Florence, and a few colleagues from the college. People who'd shown up for me when it mattered. We laughed, shared stories, argued good-naturedly about literature and politics. Maria stopped by with Sophia, bringing homemade empanadas. The evening spilled onto the balcony. Strings of lights I'd hung casting warm glows on faces I'd chosen to surround myself with. At one point, Gerald pulled me aside. "Your father would have loved this," he said, gesturing at the gathering. "You, surrounded by people who appreciate you, living on your own terms." "I think he would have," I agreed. Eventually. "He did, Harper. In the end, he did. He just didn't know how to show it the right way." I squeezed his hand. "Thank you for being here." "Wouldn't be anywhere else." As the night wound down and guests filtered out, Vanessa helped me clean up. "This is nice," she said, drying wine glasses. "You've built something real here." "We've built something," I corrected. "I couldn't have done this without you." That's what actual family does. They show up, they support, they don't keep score. She was right. The people in my living room tonight, that was family. Not because of blood or obligation, but because of choice and reciprocity. After Vanessa left, I stood on my balcony one last time, looking out at the quiet neighborhood. My neighborhood now. My phone buzzed. An email notification. Another message about the essay, this one from a literary agent asking if I'd ever considered expanding it into a book. Maybe I would. Maybe I wouldn't. The point was, I had options now, choices that were entirely my own. I thought about the woman who'd sat in that lawyer's office 8 months ago reading a will that erased her.
how small she'd felt, how invisible. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone who understood that being capable didn't mean being available, that being strong didn't mean carrying everyone else's weight, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop. Stop giving to people who only take. Stop explaining yourself to people who refuse to understand. Stop waiting for validation from people who will never provide it. Just stop. And in that stopping, find space to start something new. I went inside, locked the balcony door, and got ready for bed. Tomorrow I'd teach, grade papers, maybe start outlining that book. Live my beautifully ordinary life in my beautifully ordinary home. Because that's what freedom looked like. Not dramatic or cinematic, just quiet, steady, and completely mine. I turned off the lights, climbed into bed, and smiled in the darkness. Somewhere out there, Dylan was selling off an inheritance he couldn't maintain. Aunt Diane was navigating family politics. The lawyers had moved on to other cases. But here, in this space I'd created, none of that mattered. I'd stopped being their foundation, their backup plan, their safety net. And in doing so, I'd finally become my own. The last thought I had before sleep took me was simple. I didn't need their inheritance. I'd built my own. And nothing, no will, no lawsuit, no family expectation could ever take that away.
Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.